You could see the blaze coming. This felt different. It went from clear sky to smoke. It was everywhere. And the fire just felt different this time. It felt ominous. The smoke was darker. It just felt different. The fire just got worse and worse. And this wiped out a whole city.
Who in the world would cause such an incident? Who is this guy and why? Why? Burn notice. How can we prove an arson? First, it's very difficult to do. You have to prove, first of all, that a crime occurred, that this was not some sort of an accident, but then intent, that a crime was intended. Joining me now, Nicole Brock, out of the Atlanta jurisdiction, firefighter, EMT, and arson expert. Arson cases are sometimes very difficult to prove. Agree or disagree, Nicole?
Very much I agree with you. Absolutely difficult to prove. Absolutely difficult to prove.
Who in the world would cause such an incident, claiming the lives of at least 12 and ruining literally thousands of acres, ripping people from their homes, and they can never go back? Who is this guy?
Growing up in France, Rendernecht is now living in Pacific Palisades, working as an Uber driver. In the fall, Rendernecht feeds ChatGPT a detailed prompt blending imagery of a dystopian painting divided into parts that blend together seamlessly: fire, fear, rich people, and the poor. A month later, he tells a family member he burned his Bible and describes it to ChatGPT as liberating. As the year comes to an end, his last passengers of 2024 describe the 29-year-old as agitated and angry.
I don't understand what I'm hearing. Sydney Sumner, Crime Stories investigative reporter, he tells a family member he burned his Bible, and he said it was liberating, and he is relentlessly searching ChatGPT. He blends an imagery of a dystopian painting divided into parts: fire, fear, rich people, and poor. And the fire is looming down on all of them. That's his work. He created that. Sydney Sumner?
That's absolutely correct. Investigators found that Rendernecht created a concerning ChatGPT prompt. So he asked ChatGPT, this AI service, to create an image of a city essentially burning down. So it created 12 different shots, and you see the fire tearing through this city and people running out of the city into the woods for cover. It's very, very disturbing.
It is disturbing, and I would say probative that it proves something. But to Dina Dahl, joining us out of this jurisdiction, trial lawyer, attorney, trial consultant. Dina, if they want to make these charges stick, they're going to need more than a dystopian painting depicting a fire looming down on all parts of some dystopian city. They're going to need more than that.
Absolutely. I mean, the fact that he wants this image, and also the fact that he listened to a song, which I'm sure you'll talk about as well. You know, people's art aren't great, motivation in court. Presenting a picture and a song somebody listened to. As you said, arson is going to be very difficult to prove. And this, how somebody enjoys their music or what images they like to see, that's going to be hard to connect the dots to a jury.
This is what the U.S. attorney says happened. Let's hear it from the horse's mouth.
After dropping off a passenger in Pacific Palisades, Rendernecht parked his car and tried and failed to contact a former friend. He exited the car, walked up a nearby trail, took iPhone videos at a nearby hilltop, and listened to a rap song whose music video including objects being lit on fire. The defendant had listened to this song and watched its music video repeatedly in the days leading up to the Lockman fire. 12 minutes into the new year, environmental sensing platforms indicated that a fire had started.
Isn't it true, Sydney Sumner, Crime Stories investigative reporter, that he listened to this song over and over and over, and it's all about burning things down?
Yes, Renderneck listened to this song repeatedly in the days leading up to the Lockman fire. And now the lyricism in the song.
Alexandra Pfeiffer joining us, who lost her home. What happened? You see the fire. You realize people are evacuating. You know in your bones, I could die. My family could die. What did you do?
Well, my biggest regret is I just left. I had more time than I realized, but listening to you, I think you're right. I am a pretty strong-willed person. I trust my instincts. I did feel that it was not going to end well. And my daughter had bunny rabbits. I put them in my car and I just drove away. But I also had friends who lived, so there are a lot of different pockets of the Palisades. For those people who don't know, the Palisades, everybody thinks it's just a small little niche neighborhood in LA. It's pretty vast, and there are different neighborhoods, and some people live up on the hill. One of my friends who lived up on the hill called me as she was driving down the hill and her car caught fire. So I didn't want to wait, but because I didn't wait, I lost all of my belongings. I had no time. I just put our animals in the car and I drove away. And my assistant who worked for me was stuck in traffic and couldn't get out. So, I feel like it was about, for me, I just felt it was more important that I got out than I got my things out. And so everything perished except for our animals. Other people waited a little bit longer and were able to get some of their personal belongings out, but their lives were at risk. I just felt like it was more important to leave.
Stephanie, formerly of LA, her home destroyed in the Palisades fire. She is the executive producer, host of True Crime Tonight, founder, CEO of KT Studios. Stephanie, with your background, this must have felt like a movie production, except it was real, and you have your son. You're a single mom. You've got a son you have to save. What happened, Stephanie?
I was just working from home. I lived right off of Sunset at the time, and I started noticing cars basically backing up in front of my house, and that's very unusual because it's a dead end. And I was on a work Zoom and I went outside, and sure enough, you could see the blaze coming. And if anyone knows that area sort of by Temescal Canyon in Sunset, it is gridlock on a good day. So suddenly everyone's trying to evacuate, and people were abandoning cars in front of me and running on foot, which I understood because it felt as though there was a chance we wouldn't get out. Yes, and my son, thankfully we're all good. He was evacuated from his school, and we were the lucky ones. The structure that I was living in remained by the grace of God. But I can promise you, so many of the people and neighbors and loved ones, people who have lived in their home for 45 plus years, this is it. They are wiped to the ground, and there's no real way to start over. And to say it was an apocalypse, it's an understatement. So my heart goes out to everyone who is still sort of going through the ashes and picking up the pieces, because it really hasn't stopped yet. People are still living with those who they evacuated to. Can you imagine? So yeah, hopefully there's some justice to be had.
Stephanie Lydecker, you stated that you noticed cars were beginning to back up bumper to bumper right outside your home. Mm-hmm. And that's odd in a residential area to suddenly see a parking lot outside your front door.
Completely.
And then you look out and see flames. Where were the flames?
I was slightly kind of really near ground zero. They were just up ahead on the top of the hill. I was, fairly new to the area too, so I was so ill prepared for this. I went out, saw the flames, and realized everybody who was backing up on my street was literally trying to evacuate. There's only one way out. And remember, as people abandon their cars, fire trucks can't get in. And then residents can't get out. So, it took, over 6 hours to get, a mile and a half, because as the time progressed, it went from clear sky to smoke to straight fog. Your phone isn't working because you don't have satellite reception. And, I'm seeing the images right now, and, it's harrowing. Kids and pets, and you just grabbed your phone and went out. In my case, I didn't assume I would be back in maybe 15 minutes and that this was just a little something. And boy, was I wrong. The devastation is really unmatched. And listen, for firefighters and law enforcement and the people who really put their lives on the line to keep all of us safe, I'm so grateful.
Stephanie, you stated that your son, your beautiful boy, was evacuated from his school. Now, see, that would throw me over the edge. Yeah. Not knowing, did the twins get evacuated? Where are they? When can I get to them? How can I get to them? That's one of my greatest fears, being separated from them at a time of emergency and I can't get to them. What was going through your mind as you can see the fire and you don't have your son?
And you can't really communicate, right? So I'm so grateful that the middle school he was attending, they really went above and beyond and were able to evacuate the entire school to a further location. But again, you don't know where that location is because you're struggling with communication. And I will say this, people say this, I can attest to it now, that is all that mattered, was getting to him. Nothing else did. And I put my money where my mouth is on that one. Stuff is stuff, but safety, people lost their lives. 12 people were killed in this fire, and the devastation isn't over yet. So yes, just getting to my son, seeing him and wrapping my arms around him, I felt in my heart we were divinely guided and continue to be so to some extent.